We know that s1mple was the runaway #1 for 2021, but I'm here to make the argument that he was actually better in 2018. I'm thinking of a video game. It has global PvP and it's got about 500 YouTube ads you've probably seen before. That's right, it's Raid Shadow Legends. Okay, but let's talk about the gameplay and one of my favorite bosses, Malik Kavar. This guy was the Priest of Light at some point, but I stopped reading because I don't care about lore. The main trick to fighting him is dealing with all the poison he puts out. It's a lot, so you'll need shield buffs and healing to counter, or just do a massive amount of damage. If you can cleanse debuffs on this boss, you'll be good to go. But Vu, why are you making this ad? Raid's got a ton happening this month, and with fresh rotation of the brutal Hydra boss, tons of events and tournaments, and a Valentine's Day event where you can get your hands on a new legendary champion, this is the best time to get started in Raid. And if you click my link in the description or scan my QR code here on the screen, you'll get cool bonuses. We're talking a free epic champion, Tayrel, 200k silver, 1 energy refill, and 1 XP boost, and 1 ancient shard, so you can summon awesome champions as soon as you get in game. All this treasure will be waiting for you here. Only available for the next 30 days and only for new players. s1mple's major MVP was one of the most impressive of all time statistically, and if you look at the gameplay, you'll find outside of just the statistics, he was also just incredibly impressive in general. So how is it possible he was better in 2018? Well, for those who didn't watch too much back then, statistically, the years are almost identical, but the playstyles weren't exactly the same. So I think we're going to have to look past the statistics directly to his team. 2018 s1mple was in the shadow of the Astralis era, but not only that, he was also on a team with 2 players that struggled to perform in the way you'll see everyone on Na'Vi perform in 2021. I mean, look at this electronic guy. No way he could hold up in 2021. 2021 Na'Vi, at least for the latter half, had a 5-man roster that could likely have rivaled Prime Astralis, at least in that every player on the team can contribute their weight or more. I think the way this played out in-game is made obvious by the plays you see s1mple make today as opposed to the ones you saw him make in 2018. 2018 s1mple was forced to be hyper-aggressive to find openings that his team was simply incapable of winning in the way they needed to. And while in theory that aggression should have borne lower stats, it didn't. And that's what makes 2018 s1mple so impressive. He was highly aggressive and still managed insane stats. Well, I think s1mple has progressed in many ways as a more complete player in 2021, and we'll get to that. It also means less highlight plays, and a highlight play, or at least a highlight game, might be this one here. s1mple manages a 1.43 rating against Astralis in a 16-6 loss. How do you manage a rating that high in a loss that lopsided? Let's take a closer look. This isn't how every game went, of course. There's plenty of games that Na'Vi won in 2018. However, oftentimes this is kind of how games would go if an opponent was able to avoid s1mple, and I think that's part of why s1mple had to play the way he did in 2018. So round 4 here, he doesn't see anyone squeaky. He did make a mistake making noise in vent there, and that means when he ends up in the 1v3, because 4 of his teammates made contact with Astralis and only got 2 kills between them, he can't actually really rotate up out of vents here. He's really stuck because he knows that they should be aware he's down here, and that means he's going to end up having to save. And that does happen a lot and results in s1mple being down 8-1 on round 10. And Astralis have actually done a really good job of hunting s1mple because they've been in so many man advantage positions that s1mple hasn't really saved the op as much as he would have wanted. Because of that, as we get later in the half, he really starts trying to gamble stack things and be hyper aggressive to get something done himself, because when Astralis have had the chance, they've simply avoided him. And this is a decent round to do something like a stack on ramp, because he only had a deagle and armor. He's going to get 2 very nice kills, and his team will finally pick up a second round. Of course, he gives Edward a bit of a love tap there as well. So round 13 is where you can really see a shift, and he starts to get as aggressive as possible, and you'll see s1mple do this even today when his team is really getting run over. Of course, this is a perfect round to do this, as 4 of his teammates have pistols. He's got the only M4, but you're going to notice he gets really caught off guard on this peek from Glaive because he's trying to re-aggress, and he certainly could have died, but he gets himself a kill. And look at how Astralis pivot into an instant upper hit. And this is something they've been doing all half long. As soon as they spotted s1mple, occasionally he wasn't getting a kill before, when he got spotted, but they would immediately go the opposite direction, and Simple is just hard pushing now. You know, in a standard situation, he probably would have delayed after getting that kill on device, knowing Glaive was also there, but he got more aggressive and got a second kill for himself, and then he's wrapped around a lobby at a timing they really shouldn't expect, and he does this really smart play where he kills Xyp9x before Xyp9x is in a clutch. So if you don't let him get in the clutch, then everything seems to be fine. And 1v1 against Glaive. Glaive does end up getting the bomb, but Simple actually reads him, goes lower, and catches him moving out of the bomb site. And this is the third round that Na'Vi win. And then into the second half, they did pick up 4 or 5 rounds on their CT side, a lot based on Simple. Again, you're going to see what happens when they go for an upper take. Simple, he's not the most aggressive player here, but the upper take gets entirely shut down until Simple himself takes things into his own hands and almost actually wins this for his team. That's 2018 Simple. In an unwinnable situation, he almost brings it back to the W against the greatest team of all time. Of course, this didn't happen every single game, but as the competition got better and better, Simple would have to be more and more the focal point to give his team any chance of winning against top teams. Otherwise, they would just lose. Now, admittedly, Simple stats did take a bit of a dip against top 5, top 10 teams in 2018, while in 2021 his stats seem much more consistent against all opponents. It's only a small dip, however it is noticeable, and I believe this can be explained in 2 parts. First, in 2018 his stats against Astralis were the lowest of any opponent, and that makes sense to me given what I've already covered. Astralis was able to read Simple and counter him because of the way he was forced to play when trying to carry. He was at times a little bit predictable, and part of this is of course something he has improved on, but of course part of it does come down to his limited options given the discrepancy in skill between the 2 teams. I mean, it's peak Astralis. The other thing that's important to note is that, well, this pretty much happens to everybody. In 2021, he takes a bit of a dip against Gambit where he has his lowest stats as well. The difference is that in this case, his stats are saved by stellar performances against the likes of Vitality, who are also in the top 5 and who Simple very often straight up farms. Is having a dip against top 5 teams a disqualifying factor? Of course, Simple was leaned on to carry a bit harder against top teams in 2021, but not to the same extent. There's a reason that heading into the finals of the PGL Major, a lot of the MVP talk was actually around Bit, who is ostensibly the 3rd star on that Na'Vi roster. For the latter half of 2021, where Na'Vi was far and away the best team in the world, Na'Vi had 3 players who could all carry the game, as well as a solid IGL and a fantastic clutch player to round them out. Does that remind you of anyone? Liquid 2019. No, it's Astralis. So what does Simple as a solid, consistent carry actually look like? Well, if you've seen my What You Can Learn from Simple video, some of this may be familiar. Where first off, Simple does Simple shit and gets himself an AWP before posting seemingly very passively while his teammates push up onto the A bomb site. While this may be labeled as baiting, because it is, pushing in first with your AWP isn't going to help your team as much as it is going to get you killed. If you know that your team can handle their own roles effectively, you don't need to run at your opponents looking for frags. You can let them come to you and farm the high percentage gunfights. You can really see how this plays out when you look at Simple's positioning. While in 2018 he may have often been caught in the middle of nowhere, this is much less common in 2021, and looking at this 4K from Simple, you can watch how easy these kills are for him to get. He's constantly in a different position, taking easy shots on players that can't effectively deal with him, and he's often catching them off guard. It's not that he's not capable, he's just not forced to always make the aggressive carry plays. When he does make the carry play though, one of the most notable things that I want to break the myth of is crosshair placement. Simple has amazing crosshair placement. That's right, Score Sports. It's actually really good. You can really see this in almost any of his highlight rounds or plays. Now looking at this round versus Gambit on Overpass, his team has him on an AK while they're all on pistols, putting him in a situation where he has to be aggressive to find openings. Remind you of anything? But anyways, watch his crosshair placement for the first 3 kills. He's barely has to make any adjustment at all, even though he's being aggressive and peeking into a bomb site where his opponents could be at multiple different angles. All 3 kills look like they could be in a CSGO textbook. And the 4th, well, let's just ignore that one. There are tons of examples, even today, literally, as I'm recording this, of Simple appearing to have psychic powers when it comes to crosshair placement. His crosshair placement on peaks might be the best I've seen. And now with that crosshair placement and positioning combined, as well as the confidence that he can win any duel he takes, Simple in 2021 plays in a way that feels much more sustainable than he played in 2018. Of course, it's Simple, so apparently anything is sustainable, but in my opinion, Simple's 2018 form will go down as likely his best year ever. Or maybe it'll be 2022, who the hell knows. Anyways, thanks for watching, I hope this helped, and I'll catch you in the next one.